They threw her out into the freezing snow on Christmas Eve, an omega no one wanted, no one cared for, until the Alpha King found her. Snow fell softly over the old city, blanketing brick streets and iron railings in white. Gas lamps flickered along the avenues, their amber glow turning the night almost warm, almost kind. Church bells rang somewhere beyond the rooftops, steady and solemn, while carolers' voices drifted through the cold air, singing of peace, mercy, and joy. None of it reached Selina. She stood in the center of the packed square, trembling so hard her teeth chattered, though not all of it was from the cold. The courtyard was framed by tall brick buildings darkened by decades of soot and winter storms. Wreaths hung on iron gates. Lanterns glowed. Wolves gathered in heavy coats and furs, their breath fogging as they whispered among themselves. Christmas Eve. A night meant for warmth, for family, for belonging. Selina had never truly had any of those things, but she had believed, foolishly, that tonight might be different. She was an Omega. A weak one, they said. Small-framed, soft-voiced, born without the sharp dominance the pack valued. From the moment she could walk, she had learned how to make herself smaller, quieter, easier to ignore. But she had a mate bond. That bond had been her only shield. Her quiet hope. Proof that the moon goddess had not completely abandoned her. Until now. Bring her forward, the Alpha commanded. Selina flinched as the words echoed through the square. Rough hands pressed against her back, forcing her a step closer. She lifted her eyes to the Alpha standing before her, tall, broad, wrapped in a thick coat trimmed with fur. His expression was carved from ice. Beside him stood the woman he had chosen instead. Stronger. Louder. Everything Selina was not. You all know why we're here, the Alpha said, his voice carrying easily over the crowd. This Omega has failed her purpose. A murmur rippled outward. Some wolves looked away. Others watched with open interest, as if this were a performance laid out just for them. Selina's hands clenched at her sides. Her chest burned, the mate bond inside her already trembling, like it knew what was coming. I've tried, Selina whispered, though she knew no one wanted to hear it. I serve the pack. Silence, the Alpha snapped. Her words died in her throat. You are weak, he continued. You bring no honor, no strength. An Omega like you is a liability. Humiliation burned hotter than the cold. Selina felt eyes on her from every direction, judging, measuring, dismissing. Then the Alpha stepped closer. She felt it before he did it. The pressure. The shift. The cruel intent settling into place. No, Selina breathed, panic flooding her veins. Please, not like this. He didn't hesitate. With a single, merciless push of his will, he severed the bond. The pain was immediate and absolute. It felt like her soul was being ripped apart from the inside, white-hot, blinding agony that stole the air from her lungs. Selina screamed as she collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest while the invisible thread that had once connected her to hope shattered into nothing. The mate bond snapped. Not gently. Not mercifully. It shattered like glass. The crowd gasped. Then, slowly, laughter crept in, soft at first, then louder, uglier. On Christmas Eve, someone scoffed. How poetic. Selina shook, tears streaming down her face as the pain faded into a hollow ache that felt worse than the agony had. Empty. Broken. Like something essential had been carved out of her and thrown away. Hands grabbed her arms. Get her out of here. She barely felt herself being dragged across the courtyard, her boots scraping uselessly against ice-slick stone. Her palms burned as they scraped the ground, skin tearing, blood smearing across the snow. Please, she sobbed. I'll do better. I swear. No one answered. The iron gates loomed ahead, wreaths hanging mockingly against black metal. With one final shove, she was thrown forward, stumbling out into the street. The gates slammed shut behind her with a thunderous clang. The sound echoed down the empty avenue, final and unforgiving. Selina stood there for a heartbeat, swaying. The laughter from inside the packed grounds drifted through the bars, carried by warm light and music she would never be part of again. Then the cold hit her. She wore only a thin coat, no scarf, no gloves. The wind cut straight through the fabric, biting into her skin, seeping into her bones. Snow fell heavier now, thick flakes swirling through the gaslight, settling in her hair and lashes. The city stretched before her, vast and uncaring. Brick buildings rose like silent judges. Windows glowed with warmth behind curtains. Somewhere nearby, carolers laughed as they finished a song, their joy sharp as a blade. Selina took one step, then another. Her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the frozen street, snow soaking through her clothes, the cold searing her skin. Laughter still echoed faintly behind the gates, mixing with the sound of church bells tolling the hour. Tears burned down her cheeks, freezing almost as soon as they fell. She had nothing left. Her pack, her bond, her place in the world. As darkness crept in around the edges of her vision, Selina curled in on herself, trembling violently. Her breath came shallow and uneven, each one a struggle. With the last of her strength, she lifted her face toward the clouded sky, snowflakes melting against her lips. "Moon goddess," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Let this pain end." The bells rang on, and Selina slipped into the cold, believing, truly believing, that this Christmas Eve would be her last. The Alpha who shouldn't care. The palace of the Iron Alpha glowed like a living thing against the winter night. Set high above the old city, its stone walls and iron balconies overlooked streets dusted in snow, gas lamps flickering like fallen stars below. Inside, warmth reigned. Fireplaces roared. Crystal chandeliers scattered golden light across marble floors worn smooth by generations of rulers. It was Christmas Eve. The annual gala had drawn the most powerful wolves of the territory. Alphas, betas, wealthy bloodlines dressed in tailored coats and velvet gowns. Laughter echoed through the vaulted hall, glasses clinked, music drifted from a string quartet tucked beneath a sweeping staircase. At the center of it all stood Alpha King Bus. Tall, broad-shouldered, immaculately dressed in black and silver, the colors of his house. His presence bent the room around him, conversation softening whenever he passed. Wolves bowed their heads without thinking, instinctively acknowledging dominance older and heavier than law. They called him the Iron Alpha. Cold, ruthless, unyielding. Bus had earned every whispered name. He ruled the most powerful territory in the old city, with discipline sharpened by bloodshed. Sentiment was a weakness he had long ago burned out of himself. He did not indulge in holiday cheer. He did not care for carols or candles or false displays of unity. Christmas was tradition. Politics. Nothing more. He lifted a crystal glass to his lips, eyes distant as nobles laughed nearby, when something inside him shifted. It was subtle at first, a tightening in his chest. A pressure that had no physical cause. Bus frowned. His wolf stirred. That alone was unusual. His wolf was disciplined, controlled, as hardened as the man who ruled it. It did not whine. It did not panic. Then the howl ripped through him. Pain exploded behind his ribs, sharp and sudden, stealing the air from his lungs. Bus froze mid-step, fingers tightening around the stem of his glass until fine cracks spiderwebbed through the crystal. The sound wasn't audible in the room. It was inside him. Raw, furious, agonized. His wolf howled again, louder, a sound of terror and rage so intense it made his vision blur. Bus sucked in a sharp breath. Blood. The scent hit him without warning, thick and metallic, laced with something colder, snow, ice, winter streets. And beneath it all, mate. His glass shattered in his hand. The sound rang through the hall, drawing startled looks from nearby nobles. Dark wine spilled across the marble like fresh blood. "My king," a counselor asked carefully, stepping closer. "Are you unwell?" Bus didn't answer. He turned slowly, scanning the room as if the source of the scent might be hiding among the silk and velvet. It wasn't. His senses reached beyond stone and glass, stretching down into the sleeping city below. His wolf strained against him, claws scraping inside his chest. Find her. The thought was instinctive. Ancient. Absolute. That's impossible, Bus muttered under his breath. He did not have a mate. He had not sought one. Had not wanted one. Mates were vulnerabilities. Chains wrapped in flesh and affection. He had ruled too long, sacrificed too much, to be undone by something as fragile as fate. And yet, the scent was undeniable. Blood, snow, fear, and a bond torn so violently it echoed across territory lines. Another hell tore through him, this one edged with panic. She was dying. Bus's jaw clenched. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Around him, the gala continued. Music playing, laughter rising and falling, blissfully unaware that something fundamental had just cracked. My king, another voice pressed, more insistent now. Shall I call for the healer? No. The word came out rough, edged with steel. Bus straightened, towering over those closest to him. His eyes, usually cold and controlled, burned with something feral now, something barely leashed. Cancel the gala, he ordered. Lock the palace. Confusion rippled through the hall. But, Your Majesty, I said cancel it. His dominance slammed outward, heavy and suffocating. Wolves bowed their heads instinctively, spines bending under the weight of his command. Without another word, Bus turned and strode toward the tall doors leading to the balcony. Servants scrambled out of his way. Guards snapped to attention, then hesitated as he pushed past them. Snow blasted in as he threw the doors open. The storm hit him full force, wind howling, flakes slicing against his skin. Below, the city sprawled in a maze of brick streets and glowing lamps. Somewhere down there, someone was bleeding into the snow. Someone who belonged to him. Logic screamed at him to stop. Kings did not abandon their thrones. Iron alphas did not chase ghosts in winter storms. Whatever this was, it could be ignored, buried, mastered like every other weakness. His wolf surged. Another hell tore through him, furious now, demanding action. Bus stepped onto the balcony railing and didn't hesitate. He leapt. The night swallowed him as he shifted mid-fall, power coiling through muscle and bone. He landed on the street below in a blur of motion, boots cracking ice, coat snapping around him like a living shadow. The scent was stronger now, leading him forward. He broke into a run, moving faster than the wind, faster than thought, through narrow alleys and open squares, past startled carolers and gas lamps that flickered as he passed. Why would a king abandon his throne on Christmas night? Bus didn't know the answer yet. He only knew that if he didn't reach her in time, something inside him, something ancient and unforgiving, would never forgive him. And the Iron Alpha did not survive centuries by ignoring the call of his wolf. Found in the snow. The storm thickened as Bus tore through the sleeping streets. Snow spun violently under the gas lamps, turning the world into a blur of white and gold. The scent pulled him forward relentlessly. Blood growing fainter, colder, threaded with despair so sharp it burned his lungs. Then he saw her. She lay beside a frozen fountain in the center of a small square, half buried by snow. Stone angels ring the basin, their faces worn smooth by time, their wings crusted with ice. Water had frozen mid-spill, a glassy arc locked in place like the moment hope stopped moving. Selina. She was curled on her side, small and motionless, dark hair spread across the snow like spilled ink. Her thin coat was soaked through, her fingers blue and stiff, one hand pressed weakly against her chest, as if she were trying to hold herself together. Bus stopped so abruptly the ice cracked beneath his boots. No. The word tore through him, raw and instinctive. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and dropped to his knees beside her, heedless of the snow soaking into his clothes. Up close, the scent hit him fully: blood, fear, rejection, and beneath it all, the unmistakable pull of fate. Mate. Her breath came shallow and uneven, barely visible in the frigid air. Bus pressed 2 fingers to her neck. The pulse was there. Faint. Slipping. His wolf surged forward, roaring inside him with a sound that shook his bones. Rage unlike anything he had known burned through his veins, rage at whoever had left her here, rage at the cold, rage at the world that had dared to break something meant to be his. She's freezing, his wolf snarled. She's dying. Bus shrugged off his royal coat without hesitation, thick and lined with fur, woven with warmth spells meant to withstand the harshest winters. He wrapped it around her carefully, pulling her fragile body against his chest. She felt impossibly light. As his bare hand brushed her skin, everything exploded. The mate bond ignited. It slammed into him like a lightning strike, searing, brilliant, absolute. Power surged through his chest, flooding every vein, every nerve, as the invisible thread between them snapped back into place, reforged stronger than steel. Selina gasped. Her body arched slightly as warmth bloomed under his touch, silver light flickering faintly beneath her skin. The bond locked in with a force that stole Bus's breath, ancient and undeniable. His wolf roared, not in pain this time, but in triumph. Mine. The word thundered through his mind, echoed by the deep, primal certainty anchoring itself in his soul. Selina's lashes fluttered. Her lips parted, breath shuddering as if she sensed him even through the fog of unconsciousness. A soft sound escaped her throat, half a sob, half a plea. Bus gathered her closer, one arm cradling her head, the other shielding her from the wind. Snow fell around them, thick and relentless, dusting his shoulders and her hair, but he barely felt it. He bent his head close to her ear, his voice low, fierce, and unshakable. Mine, he whispered. Even if the world rejected you. The words settled into the bond, sealing it. Selina's breathing steadied slightly, color returning, just a touch, to her frozen cheeks. The frantic pull in Bus's chest eased, replaced by a burning focus that left no room for doubt. Whoever had done this would answer. Slowly, carefully, he rose to his feet with Selina in his arms, holding her as if she were made of glass and fire all at once. She fit against him perfectly, like something his body had always known it was missing. The square was silent now, the storm muffling all sound. Snow clung to the frozen fountain, to the angels, to the place where she would have died if he had been even a minute later. Bus turned away from it without looking back. Each step he took was measured, controlled. But beneath it coiled a promise as cold and sharp as iron. The Iron Alpha had found his mate, and the city would remember what happened next. Christmas morning in the Alpha's palace. Warmth came before light. Selina drifted upward from a heavy, dreamless dark, aware first of heat soaking into her skin, deep, steady, alive. The cold that had gnawed at her bones was gone. In its place was the crackle of fire, the scent of pine and old stone, and something else. Something powerful and unfamiliar that wrapped around her like a second heartbeat. She tried to move. Soft fabric slid beneath her fingers. Silk. Her eyes flew open. She lay in a massive bed draped in ivory and silver, sheets so fine they barely whispered when she shifted. A canopy arched overhead, carved with ancient symbols that glimmered faintly in the firelight. Beyond the bed, tall windows revealed snow still falling over the city, muted and gentle now, as if the storm had lost its teeth. A Christmas tree stood near the hearth, tall, real, its branches heavy with candles and glass ornaments that reflected the flames. Stockings embroidered with sigils hung along the mantel. The room felt old, powerful, sacred. A palace. Panic surged. Selina pushed herself upright too quickly, dizziness washing over her. The silk sheets pooled around her waist, revealing that she had been bathed and dressed in a soft white gown, warm and thick, nothing like the thin coat she had worn into the snow. Easy. The voice stopped her heart. Low. Steady. Unmistakably male. Selina turned. Alpha King Bus stood near the fire, one hand resting on the mantel, his dark coat discarded, sleeves rolled to the forearms. Firelight traced the hard lines of his face, catching in his eyes that were not cold now, but intensely focused on her. On her. Memory crashed back in fragments, snow, pain, darkness, arms around her, a voice whispering mine. She sucked in a breath and instinctively bowed her head, shoulders curling inward. I'm sorry, she whispered automatically. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'll leave. I swear. Bus crossed the room in 3 long strides. He stopped at the edge of the bed, towering but not threatening, his presence filling the space like gravity itself. You will do no such thing. Selina flinched anyway. He noticed. Something dark flickered across his expression, not anger, but something sharper. Regret. Fury turned inward. You are safe, he said, slower now, as if choosing each word with care. You are in my palace. Her breath hitched. Why? Because the idea that someone like him would help someone like her made no sense. Kings did not save discarded omegas. Iron alphas did not carry broken wolves through storms. Bus reached out and, after a pause, gently took her hands. They were warm now. His touch sent a quiet pulse through her chest, steady, grounding. The strange second heartbeat she'd felt earlier stirred again, stronger this time. Selina froze. The bond. Her eyes widened as awareness dawned, sharp and terrifying. No, she whispered. That's not possible. My bond was broken. I felt it. It was torn, Bus corrected calmly. Not destroyed. She stared at him, trembling. That should have killed me, she said. Or you. It almost killed you, he replied. And it woke something in me I buried long ago. A soft knock sounded at the door. Before Selina could react, it opened and servants entered quietly, heads bowed, movements precise. They carried a silver tray laden with steaming broth, bread, and a porcelain cup releasing the scent of herbs. Every one of them bowed lower, toward her. Good morning, Luna, one said respectfully. Selina's breath caught. Luna, she stammered. You've made a mistake. I'm just an omega. No, Bus said firmly. The servants placed the tray within reach and withdrew without another word, closing the doors behind them. Bus sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that Selina could feel his warmth, his presence anchoring her to the moment. You were called Omega because your power was suppressed, he said. Hidden. Even from yourself. She shook her head weakly. I don't have power. I never did. I couldn't even. He lifted the porcelain cup and held it to her lips. Drink. The command was gentle but absolute. She obeyed without thinking, warmth spreading through her chest with each swallow. As she drank, the shaking eased. The moon goddess does not make mistakes, Bus continued. Your rejection was not proof of weakness. It was proof of their blindness. Selina's eyes burned. They laughed, she whispered. They threw me into the snow on Christmas Eve. Bus's joy tightened. The air in the room shifted, heavy, dangerous. They will answer for that, he said quietly. He set the cup aside and covered her hands with his own again, grounding, steady. But that is not for today. She looked up at him, confused. Today, he said, you heal. Selina swallowed hard, emotions swelling in her chest until it hurt. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had ever decided she was worth preserving. Firelight danced across the room. Outside, church bells rang in the distance, bright and clear, welcoming Christmas morning. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I thought I was dying, she admitted. I asked the moon goddess to end it. Bus's expression softened in a way few had ever seen. She answered, he said. Silence settled between them, not empty, but full. Selina leaned back against the pillows, exhaustion finally claiming her again, but this time it was safe. The palace held. The bond held. As her eyes drifted closed, she felt Bus's thumb brush gently across her knuckles, an unspoken promise. From frozen streets to royal firelight. From rejection to refuge. Christmas morning dawned over the old city, and for the first time in her life, Selina did not wake alone. The secret of the rejected Omega. The morning light spilled over the palace, but Selina felt no warmth, not yet. She was awake, eyes tracing the intricate carvings on the ceiling, but her mind raced faster than the falling snow outside. Bus had left her side only briefly, returning now with a scroll sealed in dark wax. This, he said, voice low, almost reverent, is the history of your bloodline. Selina took it hesitantly. The wax was cold under her fingers, the parchment brittle, but adorned with symbols that thrummed with energy she could feel in her chest. Bloodlines, she asked. I'm just me. I'm nothing special. Bussa's dark eyes held her gaze, unyielding. You are not nothing. You are a moon-blooded Omega, Selina. That is why your pack rejected you. That is why the bond shattered so easily. They could not comprehend the power hidden within you. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal and unfolded the scroll. Symbols glowed faintly beneath her fingers. The ink moved, reshaping into shapes that danced across the page. A crest, a wolf entwined with a crescent moon, appeared at the center. You mean I'm dangerous? Her voice wavered. Yes, Bus said softly. More dangerous than they ever imagined. Your lineage is ancient, one of the moon goddesses chosen. Every Omega in your line was meant to serve, guide, or challenge a king. And now, that king is here. He gestured to himself, the Alpha King of the city, feared by all, yet now tethered inexplicably to her. Selina's heart pounded. Memories of the snowstorm, the laughter, the bite of wind, and the sheer despair rose like flames behind her eyes. They threw me out. They humiliated me. And all along, her voice broke. I was meant for something greater? Bus stepped closer, each stride measured, commanding the room without speaking. Your rejection was a test of fate. The moon goddess often marks the ones who appear weakest, who seem most broken. That way, only they can survive the trial. You did. You lived through humiliation, betrayal, and the storm, and yet you still breathe. That alone proves your strength. She swallowed, trying to grasp the enormity of what he said. Power hidden all this time? A destiny she had never known? It seemed impossible. Bus reached out, lifting her chin so her gaze met his. You are not fragile. You are not powerless. You are moon-blooded, Selina. That bond, the one you thought broken, was never gone. It waits for your awakening. And once it does, the world will see what I've known from the moment I touched you in the snow. You are dangerous. Unstoppable. Her legs trembled as the realization settled in. Her life had been a lie, or at least, a half-life of ignorance. She had been molded to believe she was weak, worthless, cast aside. But now she understood that she was anything but. But I don't even know how to control it, she admitted, voice barely a whisper. What if I hurt someone? Bussa's gaze softened, yet remained firm. Control comes with trust. With time, with guidance. That is why you are here with me. The moon goddess chose you not only for your strength, but for your wisdom, your resilience. She chose you for me. Selina's chest tightened. The weight of it pressed against her ribs, heavy yet electrifying. She remembered every harsh word from her pack, every shove into the snow, the bitter laughter echoing through the frozen streets. And now, the same power that had been mocked could become her greatest weapon. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside her. So, all this suffering, it wasn't meaningless? No, Bus said. He stepped closer, his shadow engulfing her, yet comforting. It was necessary. Fate has a way of shaping us through fire and ice. Yours was winter's cruelty, and you survived. That is why you are more than an Omega. You are marked, Selina. Marked by the moon goddess herself for a king who needs your strength, your power, your bond. She stared at the scroll again, the symbols glimmering under her fingers as if alive. The moon-blooded Omega, the chosen one. Her heart thrummed in tandem with the pulsing energy of her lineage. The realization settled over her like the first warm sunlight after a long night. She was not weak. She was lethal, untamed, and destined. Bussa's hand brushed hers, deliberate and grounding. Now you understand. That is why I brought you here, why I claimed you in the snow. Not to save a weak Omega, but to awaken the one the moon goddess intended to walk beside me. You are mine, Selina, not a possession, but a partner. A power matched only by your destiny. Her breath hitched. The firelight flickered across his sharp features, the dark intensity in his gaze mingling with pride and desire. She felt it, the bond resonating between them, pulsing with life, raw and undeniable. Dangerous. Powerful. Chosen. Selina pressed her hands against her chest, feeling her pulse accelerate. The same Omega who had been laughed at, discarded, and left to die in the snow was no longer the girl who trembled under cruelty. She was awakening. Bus leaned closer, his voice a low rumble that shook her core. "Do you feel it?" "Yes," she breathed. I think I do." The air around them shimmered. The firelight flickered as if bowing to the energy now crackling in the room. Selina's senses sharpened. The weight of her past humiliation was replaced with a surge of power she had never imagined. She could hear the soft hum of the palace walls, the faint breathing of the servants outside, even the snowflakes tapping against the window. Bus smiled faintly, approving. "Good. The awakening is only the beginning. Tomorrow, the city will not know what hit it. You are not merely an Omega, Selina. You are a force that cannot be ignored, a legacy that cannot be broken. And those who thought you weak? They will learn that their cruelty has forged something far stronger than they ever imagined." Selina exhaled, feeling the first trace of confidence in her chest. The Omega who had been rejected, shamed, and abandoned was gone. In her place stood a moon-blooded warrior, a partner to the Iron Alpha, a woman whose power and destiny could reshape the very city that had mocked her. She looked up at Bus, the man who had claimed her, protected her, and awakened her. "I understand now," she said softly, determination replacing fear. "I am not weak. I am not powerless. And I will not be ignored." Bus's lips curved in approval, a rare softness in a man otherwise feared by all. "Then rise, Selina. Your journey has only begun. And together, we will show the world that the moon goddess chooses wisely." Outside, snow continued to fall, silver and quiet, as if blessing the rebirth of the rejected Omega into her true form. The palace, the fire, and the bond between them pulsed with the promise of power, destiny, and a Christmas neither would ever forget. Selina's eyes glimmered with newfound strength. The moon goddess had marked her, and the world would soon learn. The Omega they laughed at was not just alive, she was a force to be reckoned with. The rejected Omega had become a queen in her own right. And the Alpha King by her side? He had found more than a mate. He had found destiny incarnate. The fire crackled. The palace hummed. And Selina, once discarded, now awakened, smiled for the first time in her life, fully aware of the dangerous, unstoppable power that coursed through her veins. Christmas would never be the same again. The palace gates loomed tall and foreboding, draped in frost and shadow. Outside, a familiar group of faces, once her pack, trembled in the snow. They knelt, breath steaming, eyes wide with fear and shame. Selina stood atop the grand staircase, draped in silk and furs, a crown of silver circlets glinting in the firelight. Bus's hand rested possessively on her waist, his presence a living wall of power behind her. The same cold Alpha who had left the city trembling now lent weight to her every glance. "You," one of the pack whispered, voice barely audible. We were wrong. Please, Luna, forgive us." Selina's gaze swept across them, ice-sharp, cutting deeper than any winter wind. Every insult, every shove into the snow, every cruel laugh echoed in her mind like church bells tolling judgment. Bus stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. "You rejected my mate. You left her to die in the streets. And now, on Christmas Day, you dare to return." Selina's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with power. She could feel the moon goddess stirring inside her, her bloodline resonating with righteous fury. "I was nothing to you," Selina said, her voice like tempered steel. "Thrown out, humiliated, discarded. You laughed as I lay in the snow, wishing only for the pain to end. And now," she let the words hang in the icy air, "now I am something you cannot touch." The pack shivered, eyes wide as Bus's wolf growled low, a dark rumble vibrating through the frozen street. The Alpha King of the city, feared by all, stood unwavering, his gaze fixed on those who had dared to betray the woman beside him. Selina lifted her chin, letting her newfound power flow through every word. "You wanted to break me. You wanted to erase me. But the moon goddess has other plans. I am not weak. I am not powerless. And the king by my side. Her gaze flicked to Bus. He will ensure that your cruelty has consequences. One of the pack fell to the snow, pleading. Please, mercy. We beg. Selina's eyes narrowed, a slow, deliberate smile curling her lips. Mercy is yours to earn. Forgiveness is not mine to give. Bus's hand tightened on her waist, a silent warning. His wolf snarl rumbled, echoing against the Gothic stone of the palace. They doubted you, he said, voice low but sharp as ice. They threw you out as nothing. Do you want me to remind them of who stands here now? Selina's chest rose with a steady breath. The moon goddess's mark burned faintly against her skin, pulsing in time with the alpha beside her. No, she said, calm and commanding. Let them see me for themselves. The pack staggered backward, fear plain in their eyes. They could feel the change in her, the quiet strength, the lethal power, the aura of destiny she now radiated. Even the bravest among them knew. The Omega they had scorned was no longer the girl they had discarded. Bus leaned down, voice a dangerous whisper just for her. Do not fear them, Luna. They are beneath your notice. But if you wish, they will kneel forever in the shadow of what they lost. Selina exhaled, a cold wind of satisfaction brushing through her. Let them remember this Christmas forever, she murmured, her voice like silver steel. The day they threw me out, and the day I returned as a queen. The pack fell to their knees fully, shivering and humiliated. Snow swirled around them like a silent witness. For the first time, they truly understood the power they had underestimated, the destiny they had mocked. Selina raised her hand, letting the moon goddess's presence flow through her. It shimmered faintly, silver against the dark night, and the pack flinched, bowing further. They had no choice. Power, destiny, and the Alpha King himself demanded obedience. You may leave, she said, voice crisp and regal. And remember, never doubt the moon-blooded again. As they scurried away into the snowy streets, heads bowed, Bus pressed close, his eyes scanning the horizon, vigilant as ever. Do you feel it? He asked softly. Selina smiled, the power and satisfaction of justice coursing through her. I do. And it's perfect. The snow continued to fall around them, silver and quiet, as if blessing the Omega who had risen from humiliation to her rightful place. That Christmas, the city learned a lesson it would never forget. The one they rejected had returned stronger, wiser, and untouchable, and the Iron Alpha King by her side ensured that no one would ever challenge her again. Bus wrapped his coat around her, the warmth a stark contrast to the cold outside. The city knows now, he murmured, lips brushing her hair. They will never forget the day the rejected Omega became a queen. Selina's heart swelled, not with revenge, but with the raw power of her awakening. Snowflakes landed on her hair, glinting like tiny stars, as if the moon goddess herself smiled down on her triumph. She had been cast aside, left to die, but now she stood unbroken, unbowed, and unafraid. This is only the beginning, she whispered to herself, eyes sparkling with determination. They will see the true strength of a moon-blooded Omega, and they will never doubt again. And as the bells rang in the distance, heralding the Christmas night, Selina, the once rejected Omega, stood at the palace balcony, the city spread below her like a frozen kingdom waiting to bow to its new queen. The Alpha King at her side, her power awakened, and the moon goddess's mark glowing faintly upon her. Selina had finally claimed her destiny. Christmas had never been this powerful. The first light of dawn spilled over the snow-covered city, gilding the Gothic rooftops with soft gold. Streets once silent now hummed with anticipation. Word had spread Selina, the Omega who had been cast out, now stood as the Alpha Queen beside Bus, the Iron Alpha himself. The palace was alive with celebration. Christmas trees glittered with silver and moonstone ornaments, and firelight danced across the ornate walls. Servants moved with reverence, bowing low, whispering Luna as she passed. The air smelled of pine, cinnamon, and the faint metallic tang of the snow outside. Selina stepped onto the balcony, her gown trailing like liquid moonlight, silken and silver. Bus stood close behind her, tall, unyielding, his hand brushing her waist possessively. The city lay beneath them, awash in fresh snow, the first lunar Christmas festival about to begin. Lanterns glimmered like stars along cobblestone streets, and a chorus of bells rang from every church tower. Her eyes caught a group of children laughing, chasing snowflakes, unaware of the power and destiny now presiding over their city. The thought warmed her heart. She had risen from humiliation, betrayal, and cold. She had been nothing, but now she was everything. A queen, marked by the moon goddess, with the most feared alpha at her side. Bus's voice, low and resonant, broke her reverie. The city watches, Luna. They see what they dared to reject. Selina smiled, a soft, confident curve of her lips. Let them watch, she said, voice clear, ringing with authority. Let them see strength they cannot touch, power they cannot challenge. Let them know the moon-blooded cannot be broken. At her signal, the palace doors opened, and the festival began. Music and laughter filled the streets as townsfolk, dressed in layers of wool and fur, gathered in awe. Silver snowflakes fell from the sky, glinting under the moonlight, casting a magical glow over the city. From the center of the plaza, a massive fountain shimmered, now thawed and sparkling, reflecting the glow of torches and lanterns. Bus stepped forward, his hand reaching for Selina's. The moment their fingers intertwined, a soft glow emanated from her, the moon goddess's mark pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. A ripple of energy passed through the crowd, stirring awe and silent reverence. By the power of the moon goddess, Bus declared, voice echoing through the plaza, I mark this Luna as my mate, my queen and the guardian of this city. On this Christmas, may the bond of moon and alpha shine eternal. The crowd fell silent, then erupted into cheers, some trembling with awe, others with fear, all with respect. Snow swirled around them like silver confetti, and the city seemed to hold its breath, witnessing history. Selina raised her hand, letting the moon goddess's light wash over the city. Her voice carried, strong and unwavering, they threw me out as nothing, and I returned as a queen. Bus's wolf growl rumbled under the palace, a protective sound that vibrated through the stones. The children stared wide-eyed, adults bowed instinctively. Even the former pack, who had once laughed at her, now watched from a distance, frozen in disbelief. Selina turned her gaze to Bus. It's beautiful, she murmured, feeling the warmth of firelight and alpha presence at her back. Bus smiled, a rare softness in his eyes, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Not as beautiful as you, Luna, he said, voice low, but carrying through her soul. You've claimed your destiny, and the city will never forget it. She felt the power of her bloodline, the moon goddess's blessing, and the unbreakable bond with the Alpha King. Her past humiliation melted into the snow beneath her, replaced by authority, grace, and strength. As the festival continued, snowflakes danced around her, sparkling silver against the dark sky. The first lunar Christmas festival had begun, and Selina, the once rejected Omega, ruled with quiet majesty. Every laugh, every cheer, every odd gasp in the city reminded her that she had survived, she had risen, and she had conquered. The bells tolled again, echoing across rooftops, churches, and frozen streets. Bus leaned close, lips brushing her ear. Your people love you, Luna. The city respects you. And I will always protect you. Her chest swelled with emotion, a mix of relief, pride, and an unshakable sense of destiny fulfilled. She whispered softly, almost to herself this. This is the life I was meant for. Not as a weak Omega, not as the one they discarded, but as the queen, the Luna of the moon, the mate of the Alpha King. The night stretched on, filled with music, laughter, and the shimmering glow of silver snow. From the highest balcony, Selina and Bus watched over their city, the first lunar Christmas festival marking not just celebration, but triumph. And under the gaze of the moon goddess, the snow glowed silver, the bells rang pure, and the Alpha King and his Luna stood together, unbroken, unstoppable, and eternal. That Christmas, Selina's story became legend, the tale of the Omega who was thrown into the cold and returned as a queen. The city forever changed, the bond of Alpha and Luna shining brighter than any winter star. The queen who stayed. The snow did not fall the way it used to. Once, it had been cruel. Sharp. A white silence that swallowed footsteps and erased names. Snow that. Snow that watched as a girl was pushed into the night and told she was nothing more than a burden the moon had misjudged. Tonight, it fell like a blessing. Soft flakes drifted through the air, catching moonlight and turning the city into a sea of silver fire. Rooftops glimmered. Windows glowed warm. Lanterns shaped like crescent moons lined the streets, their light reflecting off the snow so it shimmered as if the earth itself had been marked by Luna. Selina stood on the balcony of the Alpha Palace, her breath misting as she watched the celebration below. The lunar Christmas festival was alive. Music rose from the square, deep drums and soft bells woven together. Children laughed as they ran through the snow, their cheeks flushed, their eyes bright. Wolves from every rank mingled freely. Alphas laughed beside Omegas. Elders danced with pups. For the first time in generations, there was no divide in the city. No invisible line drawn by power or fear. Only light. Behind Selina, a familiar presence warmed the cold. Bus stepped close, his coat brushing hers, his hand settling at the small of her back as if it had always belonged there. The Alpha King no longer wore armor or ceremonial robes. Tonight, he wore simple dark clothing, a silver clasp at his throat shaped like a crescent moon. A king who did not need a crown to be recognized, though one already stood beside him. "You're quiet," he said softly. Selina smiled without turning. "I'm listening." "To what?" "To the city," she answered. "To how it breathes." Bus followed her gaze. "It breathes because of you." She shook her head gently. "No. It breathes because you chose to change." He studied her profile, the calm strength in her eyes, the quiet authority that had settled into her posture over the weeks since the marking. "I chose to listen. You were the voice." Below them, the bells of the old cathedral began to ring. Not the harsh warning tolls of the past, but something new. Something hopeful. Each chime echoed through the streets, carrying warmth instead of fear. Selina felt it then. The moon. It rose slowly above the city, full and radiant, washing everything in silver light. The snow responded, glowing brighter as if Luna herself had bent close to watch. A hush fell over the crowd. Wolves turned their faces upward. Some bowed their heads. Others clasped hands. The festival did not stop, but it softened, reverent, like a prayer whispered through laughter. Selina stepped forward. The balcony doors opened behind her, and the elders emerged, followed by pack leaders from every territory. Their expressions were solemn, respectful. This was not just celebration. This was recognition. Bus took Selina's hand and led her down the palace steps, through the crowd that parted without being asked. Eyes followed her, not with judgment, not with curiosity, but with trust. When they reached the center of the square, Bus released her hand. Selina stood alone beneath the moon. The bells rang again. She remembered another night like this. Another Christmas. No music. No warmth. Only voices telling her she was unworthy, unwanted, expendable. She remembered the way the snow had swallowed her tears and the way she had sworn, silently, that if she survived, she would never become like them. The crowd waited. Selina lifted her chin. "My people," she began, her voice steady, carrying easily across the square. "Tonight, we celebrate more than a festival. We celebrate a promise." She paused, letting the word settle. A promise that no child will be cast aside because the moon did not speak quickly enough. A promise that power will no longer mean cruelty. A promise that strength will be measured by how well we protect the weakest among us. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Selina continued. "I was once rejected. Not because I lacked loyalty. Not because I lacked heart. But because fear is easier than faith." She placed a hand over her marking, the silver glow faint but visible beneath her skin. I stand here not because fate favored me, but because I refuse to disappear. Silence fell. Then Bus stepped forward and knelt. The Alpha King bowed his head before her, fist pressed to his chest. I swear, he said, his voice carrying just as clearly, to rule beside you, not above you. To listen before I command. To protect before I punish. To love this city the way you taught me to. A collective gasp rose. An Alpha King kneeling was unheard of. Selina reached for him. Rise, she said. Not as my king. As my equal. He stood, eyes bright, jaw tight with emotion. Together, they turned to the crowd. The elders stepped forward and placed a silver circlet into Selina's hands. It was simple, etched with lunar runes, warm despite the cold. Selina lifted it. The moon flared. Snow swirled upward in a sudden gust, spinning around her like a living thing. Silver light wrapped around her body, sinking into her skin, into her bones, into her soul. The mark at her neck burned softly, not with pain, but with belonging. She placed the circlet on her head. The city erupted. Cheers broke the night open. Howls rose, joyful and wild, echoing off stone and sky. Fireworks burst overhead, silver and white, raining sparks that dissolved before touching the ground. Selina did not flinch. She smiled. Later, when the festival burned low and the city rested beneath the moon, Selina and Bus returned to the palace. They did not go to the throne room. They went to the old tower. The place where Selina had once hidden when the palace felt too big, too cold, too unforgiving. The place where Bus had found her weeks ago, silent and shaking, and chosen to sit beside her instead of walking away. Candles lit the room now. Soft. Golden. Bells hung from the beams, their chimes gentle when the wind passed through the open window. Bus closed the door behind them. Are you afraid? He asked quietly. Selina considered the question. No, she said. But I am aware. Of what? Of how easily this could have gone differently. He stepped closer. And yet it didn't. Because we chose, she replied. Every day. He touched her cheek, thumb brushing away a snowflake that had melted into her skin. Stay, he said. Not as a command. As a request. Selina took his hand and guided it to her heart. I already have. Outside, the bells rang once more. Not to mark ownership. Not to declare dominance. But to celebrate union. Selina rested her forehead against Bus's, the moon watching through the window as if satisfied. She had been thrown out into the snow as nothing. And she had returned not just as a queen, but as a promise kept. Moral lesson. Power without compassion creates fear, but compassion guided by strength creates change. Rejection does not define worth, and silence does not mean absence. Those who endure, who choose integrity over bitterness, and who dare to rise without becoming cruel, transform not only their fate, but the world that once cast them aside. True royalty is not claimed through dominance, but earned through love, resilience, and the courage to stay kind in a world that tried to harden you.